This video is sponsored by Squarespace. You can make your own beautiful website or online store with this all-in-one platform. Hi everyone, today I'm drawing a bunch of birds in my sketchbook. What else is new? I knew I wanted to draw some mourning doves because I am working on a mourning dove painting and I wanted to do a page of sketches related to them, but I started off by drawing other kinds of birds, just like these cute little round birds that I saw online. I don't remember what they're called, but they're like the smallest, roundest birds I've ever seen, so I wanted to draw a few of them. I was having a bit of a hard time capturing their essence. I felt very stiff today. I felt like I never properly warmed up, and the page sort of felt like a bit of a struggle to complete. I'm still pretty happy with the outcome though, mainly because of the colors. I think the page that I did last week kind of segues really well into this page because last week it's very like warm, bright colors. There's greens and oranges and reds and like some bold outlines. But this week is more of a pinkish purple, softer sort of look. And it was pretty fun, but honestly lately I've been pretty hard on myself when it comes to my artwork and my sketchbook. And I don't know why that is. And maybe it would be interesting or like healing to talk about it more, because I don't know what's causing this. I think one thing is I've been like stiffening up a lot in my sketchbook, and I always like tell people in my videos, like one of my biggest pieces of advice is to not care what your sketches look like. And I feel like I'm violating that piece of advice every time I try to film a sketchbook video. I don't know why. It's like I can't get over this like fear of being watched. Whenever I'm filming, I feel like I'm being watched a little bit more than normal, and like the camera is like intruding. I think what I need to do is sketch more when the camera is not rolling, and then that might let me be a little bit more used to drawing in my sketchbook instead of only drawing when there's a camera. I think that's sort of the fate of a lot of art YouTubers, is like you only end up making art when someone is watching, when there's a camera, it's for content. But actually last night I was like, you know what, I'm gonna draw for fun, and I drew a bunch of people in my sketchbook. I was just like sitting in bed with the little light on. It was like 11 o'clock, and I drew a bunch of people from some cool references on Pinterest. If you want to see some references that I use, I have a board on my Pinterest that is called Drawing References, and it's separated into a lot of different sections. You can just like go and look if you want to see. But I drew a bunch of people, and it was really refreshing, and I think if I do more lighthearted stuff like that, I can get back the stress-free feeling I used to have with my sketchbook. I think the more I make these like elaborate pages that have tons of colors, the more pressure I have on myself to continue doing this. The coloring part doesn't add extra like effort. I actually enjoy the coloring more than the doodling. I find though I've been using it as a way to just sort of make the page, like force the page to look a certain way and force every sketch to look appealing to me instead of leaving some of them as unappealing to my eyes. Because when you're an artist, you are your own worst critic. You're going to see your art differently than other people. Your least favorite piece is probably someone else's favorite. That's just how it works. So I was trying to tell myself that throughout this whole page, because I just like wasn't enjoying some of these sketches, but I fully colored a bunch of them anyways. And why do I feel the need to do that? It's like I'm trying to prove to myself, like even though I don't like this sketch, if I add enough color, it will look good. And that might not always be true, and sometimes I should just leave them the way they are, and sometimes less is more. This could have very easily stayed as a pencil spread. I don't need to add all these colors. I can if I want to, and I did want to, but not all of them need to be colored. I guess I'm sort of having a sketchbook identity crisis. Or maybe this sketchbook has run its course. I'm almost done with it. I have a sliver of pages left, which is probably like 10 pages because this sketchbook has an infinite amount of pages in it. If you want a sketchbook that never seems to run out of pages, you should try getting one of the Royal Talons art creation sketchbooks. That's the one I'm using, and it takes all sorts of media like surprisingly well. It doesn't feel like it should, but it does. And I've heard a lot of other people say the same things about this sketchbook. The media that I'm using for the backgrounds here is actually gouache. Sometimes I use marker, sometimes I use watercolor, but I decided to break out this gouache palette that I had. It's just a normal like plastic palette that has a bunch of gouache on it that dried a while ago. And what I do is I take a little spray bottle of water and I can reactivate the gouache. This only works for regular gouache. It doesn't work for the acrylic gouache because acrylic gouache dries forever. This stuff just needs a little bit of water and it gets reactivated, which is super nice. And I was really liking this purple color. I feel like it was just like really saturated and nice, and there was some interesting like granulation happening in the color, which is basically when it looks like grainy and you can see the pigments separating a little bit. That was really fun. But I feel like coloring the backgrounds like that, it's fun to do, but it's almost like I'm wasting time. Like it feels like a cop-out at this point. I don't really know why, because like you can do whatever you want in your sketchbook, but that's how I've been feeling. Like oh, I drew this whole page. I don't know how I'm feeling about these sketches. I'm just gonna color the backgrounds and then see what I can do. But it does give you a good starting point for a color palette for the spread. It can give you an idea of the overall feeling you want it to have if you are trying to make like a nice cohesive spread. Now for a quick break to thank this video's sponsor, which is Squarespace. As you probably know, Squarespace is an online platform where you can build your very own website and use it as your portfolio to showcase your art. You can have an online shop where you sell digital products or physical products, and you can even use it as a blog or a landing page for people to find you on social media. It's actually really easy to link off to your different social media pages because Squarespace will automatically put the corresponding icon to whatever site you're linking to, so it's really handy for that. I've recently started selling my Procreate brush packs as a digital download on Squarespace, and the process has been very seamless. I haven't had any technical difficulties, and decorating the page for it was a lot of fun. I really like using their different border options for images, and it can just add a nice like design element to the page. If you'd like to try out Squarespace, go to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch your site, go to squarespace.com/JelArts to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. Now back to the video. This first morning dove, I was just throwing stuff at the wall to see what would stick. And I just feel like the colors are muddy. They're all over the place. It ended up turning out okay, but it felt so forced. It felt so like I should have just abandoned this sketch and came back to it a different day, or just like abandoned it altogether. That's hard to say. But because I was filming, I have this pressure to make it look like somewhat decent. So I just kept adding and adding and adding. I added pencil. I think it ends up looking okay, but it's sort of like a lot of time that I could be spending trying to make like other sketches and like other little doodles that I would be more happy with. Like I think I'm delegating my time to the wrong things when I'm sketching sometimes. I used a wide variety of different media for this. I used gouache for the background like I mentioned, and I used more gouache to do some of the coloring, and then I also used some acrylic markers. They're specifically the Ardex acrylic markers, and I used some Caran d'Ache, yes, they are Caran d'Ache pencil crayons. They're the watercolor ones, colored pencils, and those are really like creamy. They're very soft, and they go on top of like slightly wet surfaces really nicely because they are water soluble. So it gives you that like nice dark line with barely any effort. It would actually be a lot of fun to wet an entire page and then draw with a watercolor pencil. Now I actually really want to try that. I think that would be a fun experiment. Just like take a blank page and like a big watercolor brush and wet the whole page. Maybe even with a color, like a light watercolor wash, and then take some water soluble materials like the Caran d'Ache pastels or watercolor pencil crayons, colored pencils, and go on top of the wet page. I think that would be a lot of fun, and I actually might try to do that soon, just to like experiment, because I feel like I need to switch things up. I think the best way to overcome an art slump or an art block is to draw things that you don't normally draw. Like last night, how I mentioned I drew a bunch of people. I think that helped a lot. It felt really refreshing to do something different. I used to draw people all the time, and I really enjoyed it, and I think I still enjoy it. I just enjoy drawing animals more, and I'm a little more insecure when it comes to my people drawing skills, just because it's so much easier to tell when something is off when drawing a human, because we all know what humans look like, but we aren't all super familiar with the way animals look. Like, it's sort of easier to tell when a hand is off than like when a wing is off. I'm hesitant to say that I don't like this page very much. I do like it, but I also don't like it because I know when other artists say that they don't like something that they did, or they call it ugly or bad or like messy, and other people see that and they're confused why they feel that way, or they like compare it to their own art and they're like, if you think that's ugly, then what's my art? But I think no matter how experienced you are always going to have art that you don't like. Even if it looks nice to other people, it might not look nice to yourself. So I think it's actually kind of like validating for me when I see another artist have something that I look at it and I'm like, oh, I really like that. But then I see the caption as like them saying that they hate it or that they don't like the way it looks. I'm like, oh, maybe the art that I don't like, someone out there might actually like it. Like how I like this artist's work that they don't like. Just kind of something interesting to think about. I was originally not going to do black outlines, but I decided to do it because it's just like an easy way to take the sketch from one place and bring it to another. It just adds a nice contrast. It's a really easy way to sort of redraw what you drew underneath and define certain areas, leave certain areas out. The more I'm talking about this page, the more I'm just realizing like maybe I'm just in a slight art block slump, but specifically with my sketchbook and specifically with like filming my sketchbook, I don't know what it is. It'll go away eventually. It's not like I think this page is horrible. I did have a decent amount of fun doing it. It just felt a little bit more like a struggle than I would like it to be. And especially this second page here, I started outlining that bird sketch and it just looks very flat. It looks like I'm overworking, I'm like trying too hard. It doesn't look very nice to me. I colored it a bit just to sort of help it be less flat. And after I colored a lot of the sketches, I went in and did like small little doodles here and there. And those are always my favorite part of any page, is like when I'm almost done the page, but there's some empty spaces, I go in with like some random color, some random media, and I do a bunch of little like doodles, little gestures of the subject that I've been drawing that day. And the small little effortless doodles end up looking better than the large doodles. And I think it's because I don't really put pressure on myself for them to look good. And I just sort of let myself draw, like I sort of do it naturally and quickly, and it ends up feeling like loose and it looks a lot better than the more try hard sketches. Like I just need to try less hard. I need to stop trying so hard in my sketchbook. It's a trap I've fallen into and I hope I can get out of it, especially considering I'm going to be starting a new sketchbook kind of soon once this one is done. I am so looking forward to starting fresh and just like seeing how I can approach the new sketchbook and maybe see if I can like do something different with it. I think that would be a good like mantra to take forward, is to stop trying so hard, because I think sometimes the harder you have to try when you're drawing, the worse the outcome is. And that's not to say like you shouldn't put effort into your art, but it's when things start to feel forced. That's where the problems come up for me, because I find the days where I'm not able to draw very well are the days where I have to try even harder to draw, and the days where things are more effortless is when I make my best art. Like last night, I wasn't filming, there was no pressure, and I just drew a bunch of people and it was really fun. And these like effortless doodles at the end of just like little birds, I need to do more stuff like that, more gestural stuff. I need to loosen up, stop getting so stiff, and stop trying so hard to have a good outcome and focus on the process instead. Because I think I'm like becoming too outcome oriented. Like I need to have a nice look for the video. I need a nice like thumbnail. I need a nice final shot that feels like a nice cohesive spread. And it's not like it has to be super detailed. It's just that I don't want to look at it and think like, oh, that looks weird. Oh, that looks off. Let me know if you've ever sort of felt a similar way and things you did to sort of help yourself overcome it. Honestly, I think the answer for me is to simplify things, stop trying so hard, draw more when I'm not filming, and just like loosen up overall. It's easier said than done, but I know it will come. I'll be able to do it. I just need to put less pressure on myself to deliver nice sketches. So I hope you enjoyed this page. Honestly, my favorite part is my favorite parts of this spread are the little blue bird doodles around that I just did with one color, and they're just very simple little doodles. Those are my favorite. I do not like the one in the middle on the right. That's probably my least favorite. It just feels so like muddy, and I've already been over this though. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know how your current sketchbook is going. Mine's almost done, like I said, and I'm really excited to start a new one and open a new chapter in my art, because every new sketchbook sort of feels like a new chapter, and that's one of the coolest parts of sketchbooking. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in my next video.